History is often written in dates, battles, and the names of kings. But beneath those grand events lies something far more powerful and far more human: memory. Humans do not forget kindness, and they do not forgive betrayal easily. A single favor can echo across decades. A single injustice can ignite revenge powerful enough to bring down empires. This is not just a story about power. It is a story about human nature. The boy who was spared. Long before the empire rose, before banners were raised and borders were drawn, there was a boy named Cale. He was no one important, at least not then. Cale was born in a forgotten village on the empire's frontier, where droughts were common and mercy was rare. When imperial soldiers came to collect taxes the village could not pay, they burned homes and took prisoners. Cale's parents were among them. The boy was dragged to the square, trembling, certain he would die. Most soldiers looked at him with empty eyes. To them, he was just another problem to erase. But one man stopped. The officer's name was General Marcus Vallon. He looked at Cale and hesitated. Something in the boy's eyes, fear mixed with defiance, reminded him of his own son, long buried. Against orders, Marcus cut Cale's ropes and whispered, "Run, never come back." Cale ran, and in that moment, a seed was planted, a favor etched into memory. Cale survived. He grew older, harder, sharper. He learned to read, then to fight, then to think. He traveled across provinces, working as a laborer, a scribe, a mercenary, absorbing the empire's weaknesses like a scholar studies anatomy. But no matter how far he went, he never forgot the face of the man who spared him. Humans are wired this way. Gratitude is not passive. It is stored, protected, and remembered. A favor given at the right moment becomes a debt written into the soul. Cale promised himself one thing. If fate ever allowed it, he would repay that mercy. When empires forget humanity. Years passed. The empire grew rich and arrogant. Corruption spread like rot beneath polished marble floors. Governors crushed villages for profit. Generals betrayed one another for favor at court. Mercy became weakness. Loyalty became currency. And then came the decree. The emperor, fearing rebellion, ordered a purge of the frontier regions. Entire bloodlines were marked for extinction. One name appeared on the list: Marcus Vallon. The same general who once spared a child was now considered a threat, too honorable, too loved by his soldiers. He was arrested in the dead of night. The debt comes due. Cale heard the news in a tavern hundreds of miles away. He said nothing, but something ancient and dangerous stirred inside him. This is the truth few rulers understand. Humans never forget a favor, and when they repay it, they do so with everything they have become. Cale had become powerful, not through titles, but through connections. Former soldiers, disgraced officials, merchants ruined by imperial greed, villages burned by the same cruelty that once took his parents. Cale did not shout. He did not declare war. He planned. Revenge is not rage. It is patience. Revenge is often imagined as explosive violence. But the most devastating revenge is quiet, methodical, and intelligent. Cale leaked information that caused trade routes to collapse. He funded small rebellions, not to win, but to drain resources. He exposed scandals at court, turning allies into enemies. The empire began to bleed from 1,000 invisible wounds. And at the center of it all was one goal: save Marcus Vallon. The night the prison fell. When Cale finally moved, it was swift. The prison holding Marcus was considered unbreakable. But empires often overestimate stone walls and underestimate human loyalty. Guards were bribed. Others were convinced. Some simply stepped aside. Cale personally unlocked Marcus's cell. The old general stared at him, confused. "I don't know you," Marcus said. Cale knelt. "You spared my life when I was a child," he replied. "I never forgot." For the first time in years, the general's eyes filled with tears. Gratitude meets revenge. Marcus was smuggled out of the capital. But Cale did not stop there. Saving a man was not enough. The Empire had to pay. What followed was not chaos, but collapse. Generals defected. Provinces declared independence. The Emperor, isolated and paranoid, ordered executions that only accelerated his downfall. Within a year, the empire that had ruled for centuries fractured into warring states. Historians would later argue about economics, military overstretch, and political decay. But none of them wrote about Cale. Why this story repeats itself? This story is not unique. It happens again and again across history and personal lives alike. A worker remembers a boss who believed in them. A child remembers a teacher who defended them. A people remember the injustice that broke them. Favors create loyalty. Betrayals create enemies. And enemies shaped by time, intelligence, and patience are the most dangerous of all. The psychology behind it. Science supports this truth. Studies show that humans remember emotional experiences, especially kindness and cruelty, far longer than neutral events. Gratitude activates deep social bonding. Injustice activates survival instincts. That is why kindness can build legacies. Arrogance can destroy empires. Revenge, when delayed, becomes strategic, a warning to the powerful. Power often makes people careless. They forget names. They forget faces. They forget the small mercy they denied or the cruelty they excused. But the powerless remember everything. And when they rise, they do not rise empty-handed. They rise with memory, motivation, and purpose. The final truth: humans never forget a favor. And they never forget betrayal. One creates loyalty that can last a lifetime. The other creates revenge that can reshape history. Empires fall not only because of armies, but because of people they underestimated. And somewhere, right now, a favor is being remembered. Somewhere else, an injustice is being sharpened into revenge. History is waiting.